Okay, family. It is I, Lord Eric Steele, aka Big Rossi Love, coming at you again. This episode of FBA All Day, the channel all about justice and understanding for our people. Today we have another volume for the Skinfolk Spotlight. This will be volume 4. Volume 4. We received a video and it asked me to give my opinion on this video. Looks like we have the ex NFL player Emmanuel Acho, however you say his name. Interesting character. Praised by the dominant society. I see that he's authored a book, which is good. That's good. He is pushed, or when I say praised, he is placed before us as something we should, I don't know, mimic. I guess that's the right word. They want us to be like him, if you will. I decline respectfully because I have a backbone and I'm pretty conscious. But yeah, Mr. Emmanuel Acho, his video. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do is I'll play the video and then I'll give you my commentary. Here's the video.
My method is this. I believe that if you really want to understand something, you have to immerse yourself in a culture. Mm-hmm. I grew up Nigerian American. What that means is I have the privilege of knowing where my parents came from. I go back to my village in Nigeria. Okay, I'm track with me because I'm going somewhere with it. But I went to a private school, majority white, in Dallas. But then I went to church in the hood. Rachel can attest to that. Rachel, I think y'all went to Concord. I went to Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship.
Right down the street.
Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. So I grew up with Black people. I grew up with Nigerian people. I grew up with white people. As a result, I know when white people say, well, racism doesn't exist, I know why they say that. Because I've been in them rooms when they saying that. Mm-hmm. When I kick it with Black people and they're like, all white people are racist. I know why you're saying that. All the while, I have the privilege and luxury of not having generational trauma because my parents were born in Nigeria. So, man, my method is removing some of the sting because I don't have that sting and trying to deliver a message in a manner that people can receive it. Primarily white people.
Okay, so he may not have expressed himself very well. He may have misspoke. I'll take that into consideration. But here's my comments or my thoughts on this issue, as it were. First of all, before we get into anything, I like to understand who a person is and where they come from before I give my commentary. My research on him shows that Mr. Acho, he is not a foundational Black American, so we'll start there. So his take on our plight here, you have to take that with a grain of proverbial salt. He doesn't have a connection to our people. So when people come to him for advice on how to deal with our people, it's invalid if you ask me. He doesn't know. His parents were from Nigeria. This dude is not even, he's one generation away from immigrant. Okay, he's what they would consider the dominant society would consider him an anchor baby. Okay? His parents aren't from here. They're from Nigeria, which is a country on the west side of Africa. Is just under the horn, just under the hook. Nigeria is sent there. Now we have to understand, as I said, you have to understand a person. If you want to get a good understanding, you need to understand their history and where they're from. Now I find it very interesting when I hear Nigerians being dismissive or talking against our people here, against foundational Black Americans. I find that very interesting because Nigeria is not even an old country. And I'll get into that. Nigeria is not even an old country. It's in Africa, which is definitely, the Africa is, they consider it the cradle of humanity. But Nigeria is not an old country. So he said that because he has Nigerian background, or because of his Nigerian background, he doesn't have that generational trauma. What does he mean he doesn't have generational trauma? What does he mean he doesn't have that? Again, here these people go with that thinking there's something else. I just told you Nigeria is not an old country. So why does he think he doesn't have generational trauma? Why do you think his parents gathered up their little bundles of goods and got the devil out of Nigeria to bring him here? Why do you think they came here instead of staying in Nigeria? Mister, I have no general. I bet your parents have some trauma. I bet those parents of yours have some trauma. They got the devil out of Nigeria, didn't they? Well, let's see. Let's do a little investigations then, because this guy's not foundational Black American. His parents are not from here. Where are they from? They're from Nigeria. Okay, so we do a little investigations here. According to the State Department, we'll see. Is Nigeria a safe country? Because according to him, they don't have no generational trauma. So that must be a perfect place over there. It must be a sprawling, luscious, just a metropolis of goodness over there, because there's no trauma, huh? So we'll ask, is Nigeria a safe country? Well, according to the United States State Department, there are high rates of violent crime, such as armed robbery, home invasions, muggings, carjacking, sexual assault, and violent assault throughout Nigeria. No generational trauma, huh? You sure about that? Are you sure about that? I bet your parents have some trauma. That's why they got you together and got you all up out of there. They got out of there with the quickness, hanging on an inner tube, coming across. They got the devil up out of Nigeria, didn't they? Violent crimes, home invasions, muggings. That sounds like the worst FBA locations. The worst of our locations. That's described for your whole country. What trauma do you not have? Nigeria is not considered a peaceful country. It's ranked among the least peaceful nations globally in the world. They consider Nigeria some of the least places for peace. You don't want to be in Nigeria. Nobody does. That's why your parents were so quick to get you out of there. They caught the first thing they could catch getting out of there to bring you here, to the place that the foundational Black Americans created. We created this place. We made it possible for your parents to have a safe space to bring you. We made it possible for your parents to have a place where you could come and go to school peacefully and attend colleges and participate in the society that we created. How you think you should be the person to speak on our plight here is beyond me. I can't understand what makes you think you have a place to speak for us. You should speak in proxy for us? Your country is known for facing challenges of insecurity, banditry. Just a bunch of bandits running around. Kidnapping. Just grabbing folks. Child enslavement. Just selling children. We don't do that here. Foundational Black Americans, we don't play those games here. That's what happens in your homeland, though. That's where you're from. That happens there frequently. Kidnapping people's children and forcing them into little sex rings and carrying on. That runs rampant in Nigeria. Selling their little kids to the dominant tourists that come there. That's the stuff y'all do. We don't have those kind of traumas here, sir. No, sir. You can't go to a community of foundational Black Americans and get up on somebody's child. We don't do that here. We don't do that here. That's not something that's found here. That's native to Nigeria over there. Insurgency and all that kind of stuff. Let me give you a little history on the place, not so they don't think I'm just picking on him. Let me give you a little understanding of the place, a little history of the place. In 1861, Lagos was colonized by the British. Mr. We don't have those traumas. You guys are recently colonized. That's pretty recent. That's not that long ago. As a matter of fact, uh, in 1914, the entire country, that's when you guys became the colony and protectorate of Nigeria. In 1914. That's when you became Nigeria. You didn't become independent until 1960. Y'all was being colonized. All the way up until 1960, y'all was getting y'all's butt whooped by the British. We spanked the British centuries ago. Y'all just barely got out. Let me see. You guys only been independent for like 64 years. Not even a whole century yet. You didn't receive your independence. Nigeria didn't get their independence from the British rule until October 1, 1960. Come on, bro. Don't play with us. Don't play with us. You're not the one to speak on foundational black Americans' plights here. You're not the one. You ain't the one and your parents ain't the two. You should be somewhere being quiet. If somebody has a question for anything pertaining to the blacks here on this land, the foundational black Americans here on this land, you, sir, should be quiet. You should tell them that doesn't concern me. That's not of my concern. There are more intelligent people who can speak on the plight of these folks than me, because my people can't speak on that. That's what an intelligent Nigerian would say. I understand your question, but I'm not the best source of information to give you the best answer. Should be an intelligent response, because you're not. You came over here, you were allowed to progress and do well for yourself under the system that we provided. Under the situation that we created. Your parents was allowed to immigrate here because you weren't allowed to immigrate here before we fought for civil rights. Nigerians didn't fight for civil rights over here. That's not the way it happened. We fought for them here, and then your people was allowed to come here. Understand? I know you think you're something else. We've come across your people a lot. Africans think they're something else. They don't think that they're of the foundation black Americans, and they're correct. They are not. And we want y'all to keep that same energy. Don't consider yourselves among us, because now we don't consider you among us. We are foundational black Americans. We did not immigrate here from anywhere. We were here already. A lot of us were here before the slave ships came. We are the foundations of this place. You understand? You guys didn't even have birth certificates until 1979. You're way behind, bro. Don't ever speak on our people. All right? Don't let that ever happen. Don't do that. You didn't even have birth certificates until 1979. You're some of the biggest scammers in the world are from Nigeria. Okay? So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, I heard him before. Other than this video, I heard him, I think it was Gail. He was with Gail, Oprah's friend Gail. And he said, in one of his comments, he said, speaking to us when addressing black people, he said, if you guys are victims, if you feel like white people are your problem, then white people have to be your answer. It took me all of 5 minutes not to regurgitate. That thinking is so elementary. This is his surface level way to address our issues, because he's not one of us. So he wants to separate himself and stand off and consider himself above us. So if we have a problem with white people, notice how he didn't say we all have a problem. But if the black man, if you black and you have a problem with white people, then white people are your solutions. That is a very elementary way to think. That's another reason why I say some of these people who go to college, they're not educated. They're indoctrinated. their mind. They've trained their minds to think like the oppressors. And for some reason, they think that makes them more intelligent than us. I concur. It makes you more indoctrinated than us, that's for sure. And you can tell by his reasoning. That's a very elementary way to think. That's very surface level. And what he doesn't realize in that answer is that a solution to one problem can sometimes inadvertently create a new problem. He doesn't realize that. It may even exacerbate the original issue. You understand that? That elementary way of thinking can exasperate the original issue, can make it even worse. This highlights the importance of considering potential consequences of any proposed solution. You have to take these things into consideration. First of all, not all problems have a solution. Not in the traditional sense. Not every problem has a solution, and it definitely can't be one as surface level as that answer. I'll tell you, sometimes the best approach is to accept the situation or adapt to the circumstances. He doesn't consider that the problem might not be the problem itself, but an underlying cause, such as unhealthy coping mechanisms or unresolved trauma. Yeah, the trauma that he talks about for us. Addressing this issue could be the solution. Addressing the underlying trauma could be the solution. For example, tangible reparations for our people. Yes, we already understand that, sir. We've already come to the conclusion of what we need. Not your mouth running, paying lip service to the dominant society. That is not the solution. We, the people who have the problem, we already know the solution. And it starts with tangible reparations, by making amends. Starting to make amends for the things that's been done to us. We already know what the solution is, and we don't need you to speak. Stick to football. Stick to that stuff you know. You're an anchor, baby. One generation here in the United States. Stay out of foundational Black American conversations. You're not welcome. We don't need to hear from you. We know what our problem is. We know what the solution to our problem is. We don't need your outside view. Okay? That's my take on Mr. Emmanuel Acho. Not taking nothing from his accomplishments. What he's done is what he's done. But his views on us, I consider them disrespectful. They're considered disrespectful. You don't ask a Chinese man to speak for a Jew, do you? Do you ask a Latino to speak for the Germans? Well, please don't invite the Nigerians to speak for foundational Black Americans. We don't respect their input at this point. We got it. For those of you who, and I never say all, not all of anybody is anything. I never say all of you guys are on the outside looking in. It's not that way. I do know some cool people from Africa. I do know some cool people from the Caribbean. I know some cool people from the Latino community. So I never say all. But if you want to be a part of the movement pushing our people, the foundational Black Americans, forward, do that. Support. When it comes up or it comes to your town or your area and the conversation of reparations comes up, support. And if you can't support, if you can't say, I believe these people are due their justice, I believe reparations is due for these people, then don't say anything. That goes for Belizeans. That goes for all. I've come across all of them. If you don't think that we are due our reparations, then just be quiet. Hold your tongue. Don't stand in our way trying to get it. Why stand in our way? We made it possible for you people to come here. We made it possible. It wasn't the kindness of the dominant society that decided, oh, let people come into this country. That's not the way it happened. You're delusional if you think that's what happened. That's not what happened. The fact that you're even here, that your people are even allowed to come here, you should be eternally grateful to foundational Black Americans for that. You should be grateful and be quiet. Again, this is Lord Eric Steele. I invite you to like, comment, share, and subscribe. This and all the videos. You can send your questions to this email address. And again, it's your boy. Thank you for continuing to watch us at FBA All Day. We'll see you. One.